So what do you do if your movie and your company is at the center of a huge public debacle where you lost your directors 80% of the way through shooting a movie? You go get an Oscar-winning director. Hey guys, I'm John Campea, and as most of you guys heard the other day, Lord & Miller, 80% of the way into shooting the Han Solo movie, parted ways or were dumped by Disney, depending on which story you're listening to, leaving the film without a director for its 3.5 weeks of remaining filming, and of course their 5 weeks of already planned and scheduled reshoots. Disney has now addressed that issue by going out and hiring Academy Award-winning director Ron Howard. The news comes to us from The Hollywood Reporter, which is also claiming that the core of the problem between Lord & Miller and Lucasfilm was that writer of Han Solo, Lawrence Kasdan, who also wrote Empire Strikes Back, were clashing and couldn't get on the same page together. Look, while I'm still not happy with Lord & Miller or Lucasfilm for the way they just seem to have collectively botched this whole thing 80% of the way into shooting Han Solo, I will say that I think Lucasfilm has probably made the best of a bad situation. In Ron Howard, you're getting truly one of the great directors working today. Look, I'm not going to say that I liked all of his movies. He's put out a couple of stinkers, but I think he's put out enough borderline classic films that he's earned the benefit of the doubt. The really curious thing here, though, is that what will Ron Howard's Han Solo movie look like that is going to be different from what Lord & Miller's finished Han Solo movie would have looked like? Look, most of this movie is still going to be Lord & Miller's. You get 80% of the way through shooting a movie, your DNA is going to be all over the project, but it is going to be interesting to see how the movie is going to differ now from what it would have looked like before. I gotta say, I think the Ron Howard selection is probably a pretty safe, but a pretty smart choice. All right, now before I let you go, here are 3 interesting things to know. Interesting thing number 1. Ron Howard has really close connections to George Lucas. Ron Howard's been working with George Lucas since he was pretty young. He worked on George Lucas's film American Graffiti, and then he directed George Lucas's film Willow back in 1988. Interesting thing number 2, I mentioned that Ron Howard directed some borderline classic films, whether you're talking about movies like Cocoon, or Splash, or Night Shift, or my personal favorite of his, Backdraft, Apollo 13, Ransom, A Beautiful Mind. He's directed a lot of great films. And interesting thing number 3, the guy who directed all those great films, how will his style coming in most of the way through the movie mesh with the style of Lord & Miller, who have directed such films as Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, The Lego Movie, 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street. It's going to be an interesting melding of the minds, if you will. Okay guys, that'll do for me, but what I really want to know is, what do you think about the addition of Ron Howard now as the director of Han Solo? Now, just forget about Lord & Miller for a second. That's a separate issue. Let's forget about how Ron Howard came in to direct this movie. What do you think about Ron Howard coming in and taking over the reins? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Thanks for joining me. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you're following me on social media at John Campea, and that'll do it for me. And until next time, bye-bye.